The 40-hour work week, overtime pay, healthcare benefits, vacation and sick leave, maternity or paternity leave, protection from sexual or verbal abuse, protection against discrimination. These are some things that many of us take for granted in our workplace. Unfortunately, there are many workers in the United States who are excluded from these seemingly basic rights. Throughout the country, domestic workers perform a wide range of necessary services. They work as nannies, babysitters, maids, in-home health aides, and more. These jobs are usually informal without contracts or regulations. Therefore, these workers are completely at the mercy of their employers. The lucky ones are treated with dignity and respect, but many domestic workers are not so fortunate. For example, Maria Moctezuma's workday begins at 6 in the morning and often doesn't end until midnight. She's a nanny, housekeeper, and cook for a family of 4. Maria rushes through her own meals in 5 minutes, so she has time to complete her long list of chores. These chores include washing the family car, scrubbing the bathroom, cleaning the other rooms, caring for an infant and a toddler, and serving at late-night parties. She's lucky to get 6 hours of sleep at night. Maria doesn't have health insurance, so she can't seek treatment for her back pain or chronic headaches, and she only earns $200 a week. Maria does this work because she needs to provide for her 3 children. Since she can't afford childcare herself, she mostly leaves her kids with her sister. When their aunt is unavailable, though, she is forced to bring them to work with her. Sadly, Maria's story is not uncommon. There are many reasons that domestic workers don't receive the same workplace protection of more traditional jobs. For one thing, they are employed by individuals, often without a legal contract, and in many cases their employers are working-class parents themselves. These employers may need the extra support, but may not have much extra income. For the workers themselves, however, these jobs are difficult and leave them vulnerable for exploitation. For too long, domestic workers have provided critical services while missing out on fair wages, decent hours, and standard benefits. Historically, domestic workers have long been exempt from labor protections. For example, New Deal labor laws specifically excluded both domestic and farm workers. These groups both remain highly vulnerable to exploitation today. In 1974, there was an amendment to the Fair Labor Standards Act, extending coverage to domestic workers. However, an overly broad reading of its exemptions has continued to leave domestic workers unprotected. Most domestic workers still miss out on minimum wages, overtime pay, benefits and protections for discrimination. These issues are persistent for the largely immigrant and female workforce. These domestic workers toil away out of public sight in private homes. Families who employ nannies and other domestic workers may mean well, yet the vast majority don't pay into Social Security, provide any sick leave or vacation time, or offer overtime pay for extra hours worked. Without regulations, domestic workers are at their employer's whim. They have nowhere to turn in the event of harassment or discrimination. And in many cases, domestic workers are immigrants. They often lack the English language or confidence needed to advocate for better conditions. These combined factors lead to inadequate pay and benefits. In 2010, however, New York passed groundbreaking legislation, its Domestic Workers' Bill of Rights. This bill extends various protections to domestic workers, such as time and a half pay for overtime, at least 3 vacation days per year, a full day of rest after every 7 days worked, or overtime if they choose to work that day, and protection against sexual or racial harassment. These protections apply to all workers regardless of citizenship status. 4 states are now looking to follow suit: California, Colorado, Illinois, and Massachusetts. In particular, California, with its size and abundance of immigrant labor, it is at the forefront of this debate. Assembly member Tom Amiano introduced Assembly Bill 889 last year. It's been nicknamed California's Domestic Workers' Bill of Rights. If AB 889 passes, it could impact 200,000 nannies and other domestic workers. California's bill will go even further than New York's. It will require anyone who hires a nanny or personal attendant to pay time and a half for more than 8 hours worked in one day or more than 40 hours worked in 1 week. Additionally, domestic workers on duty for 24 hours would be provided 8 uninterrupted hours of sleep. A live-in domestic worker would not be allowed to work more than 5 days without a day off. The bill will also guarantee workers 30-minute meal breaks after 5 hours of work, and employers would need to maintain pay and time off records. If they violate any part of the new law, they would need to pay their workers $50 a day for each day in which a violation occurred. Simply put, people who hire domestic workers would have to behave like regular bosses. For some employers, this would be a shocking change, particularly those who might become the subjects of complaints. The main challenge of the new law is to shift the perception about domestic employment. What has long been seen as an informal and intimate arrangement would start being viewed as a regular job. After passing the state assembly last summer, California's bill has been held up in the state Senate. Some of the opposition to the bill is about its possible economic impacts on the state. Some legislative staffers estimated that it would cost at least $385,000 each year to investigate the complaints that would inevitably arise. On the other hand, it has been proven that raising the income for low-wage workers boosts the local economy. Conservatives have called this bill risky and unreasonable. My question for them is, how is the current treatment of domestic workers not risky or reasonable? I urge all states to explore the possibility of passing similar legislations to protect domestic workers, and for states like California, I hope that they make the right decisions. Domestic workers have been exploited for too long. These workers do difficult and ethical work and critical work, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect in the workplace.